Masechet Yevamot Daf Kof Aleph, we begin the 12th perek, which is about Chalitza. Chalitza is detailed in the Pesukim. There are three basic steps. Number one is saying certain statements, which are quotes from the Tanakh. Step two is going to be a shoe. She takes off his shoe. And the third is a spitting ceremony. She spits towards him. So the Pesukim lay out clearly if he does not want to take her as a Yevamah, they go to the gate and the Zikenim. So remember this word Zikenim we're going to discuss. And she says, so she'd have to say the following statement. Someone would have to tell her to say these exact words. My Yavam, my brother-in-law, refuses to uphold the name of his brother in Israel. He does not want to take me as a Yevamah. And then the Zikenim will call him. So you have a second time, Ziknei Ayro. We're going to derive something from that. And they will speak to him. And he will say, right, he will indicate, I do not want to take her as a Yevamah. And so then this sister-in-law will come before him and in front of the Zikenim. So here you have Zikenim once again. And Chalsa na'alo ma'al raglo, she will remove his shoe. Na'alo has to be his shoe from his foot. And she will spit before him. And she will say, this is what should happen to the man who does not choose to build his brother's house. There are many different explanations regarding the symbolism of the Chalitza ceremony. I think the simplest peshat is that the main way someone would acquire land in biblical times is to walk on it, like Abraham, right? Walk. Everywhere you walk, you will acquire. And this man is not acquiring his brother's inheritance. And so taking off the shoe is indicating I am not acquiring my brother's inheritance, and I will not continue his name by having a child with his wife who will inherit that land. So he's removing that responsibility by removing the shoe. And then the spitting is a shame punishment. This is a great honor, and if he does do the mitzvah and he's put to shame, he's embarrassed, and everyone says, this man is bet chalutz hanal, look how he doesn't fulfill his obligation. Okay, so the Gemara is going to discuss some of the details of this, and says, mitzvat chalisa bishlosha dayanin, you need to have 3 judges in order to perform the ceremony. Afilu shloshtan hedyotot, and even if the 3 are lay people, you don't need professional judges. And just even if they're not so learned, we'll see they do need to know how to read. Chalza b'min'al chalitzata keshera. If she uses if she does chalitza with a shoe, called a min'al, that's what in modern Hebrew we would call shoe. She explains some kind of soft shoe. Chalisata keshera, that's good. That's permitted to use that regular type of shoe. However, be'an pilia chalisata pisula, if she used some kind of a shoe made out of felt, more like a sock, then that's no good. Besandal sheyesh lo akeb kasher, v'she'en lo akeb pasul. If it's a sandal, at least what they called in Roman times sandal, something that's made out of a hard leather board. If it has a heel, then that's fine. That's more like a shoe. But if it has no heel, if it's all open in the back, then it's no good. It's not enough of a shoe. Minar kuba ulamata chalitza keshera, minar kuba lamata chalitza pesula. Now she explains this to refer to an amputee. If someone has amputated only his lower leg below the knee, so he has a lower leg, then that's okay if he has the shoe on the stump of his lower leg. But if he's amputated above the knee, at the thigh, then this is nowhere to put the shoe, so then it's no good. From the Peshat, though, it seems like it's talking about the shoe itself, describing the shoe, so that if the laces go up to the knee or below, then that's fine. But if the laces are kind of like a long boot that goes above the knee, then that's not considered a regular shoe and no good. חלצה בסנדל שאין שלו, או בסנדל של עץ, או בשל שמו בימין, חליצה כשרה. If he uses a sandal, meaning a proper shoe, one with the back, one that's looks like a shoe, that is not his. So it's best if it belongs to him, if he owns it, as it says, so his. But that's not actually absolutely necessary. So if it does not belong to him, it's still okay. If it's made out of wood, that's also okay. If it's a left shoe and he put it on his right, that's also okay. B'di'avad. Chalsa begadol shehu yachol lahaloch bo, o bekatan shehu chofet rob raglo chalisata keshera. Also, the shoe should fit. And so if it's too big, even if it's too big, but he can walk in it, he can take a few steps, and it's okay. Or if it's too small for him, as long as he can fit most of his foot into it, the chalitza is still okay. All right, so now we're going to focus on the beginning of the number of judges, and the quality of the judges. So since first it says 3 judges, and then it says even if they are laymen. Well, if 3 laymen are fine, why you bother saying that there have to be 3 judges? And the answer is that they can't just be any 3 men. They have to be somewhat knowledgeable enough to know how to read and dictate to the Yavam and Yevamah those words, those Pesukim statements that they have to say. They have to be able to read the script and tell the Yavam and Yevamah, here, say this and repeat after me. So they have to don't have to be full professional judges, but they have to be somewhat knowledgeable. Tanena leha tenur banan misvat chalisa b'shlosha shiyodim lakrot ka'ayin dayanim, and we have a baraita that supports this, that the chalitza has to be done with 3 people that know how to dictate like dayanim. Rabbi Yehuda omer b'chamisha. Now regarding the number, Tanna Kama says 3, Mishnah says 3, but Rabbi Yehuda says you need 5 judges. My Tama de Tanna Kama, what's the source for the opinion that says 3? The Tanya Zikenim Shenayim Ben Betin Shakul Mosifin Alahem Od Ehad. Since the pasuk says they ascend to the gates to the Zikenim, that's plural. So plural is a minimum of 2, and you can't have an even number of people on a court, because you need a tiebreaker, so we'll add 1 more person. There you go, that's 3. Rabbi Yehuda zikneh shenayim, zikenim shenayim, ben betin shakol mosifin od echad harekan hamisha. Rabbi Yehuda says actually it says the word zikneh and zikenim, and both of them are plural. So since it says 2 words that are in plural, that's 2 plus 2 is 4, and that's an even number, so we need to add a tiebreaker, and that's why we have 5. Okay, good. V'tanakama hay zikneh my avile. Now Tanakama said 3. What is he going to do with the extra word elders? Oh, that extra one, it comes to include even 3 laymen. Now you might think the opposite. If it says elders and elders again, elders indicates that these should be professionals, not just anybody. But it's the opposite actually. This is the principle of perat acharei perat. If you restrict something and restrict it again, it's like a double negative, and it actually means a positive. You can include something. If you wanted really just elders, so you could have just said just elders once. The second one comes to say, yes, laymen are also okay according to Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda, who used the word elders and elders to learn that you need 5 judges, how does he know that you can use lay people? Right here in Pasuk it says that they will go here, they're going to go to the eyes of these zikenim. So le'ayaneh comes to include anyone, including lay people who can see. Because we explained le'aneh means that the judges have to be able to see. Right here, especially in this case, they have to actually witness what's going on. If they're blind, how they're going to witness the ceremony and see the spitting part of the ceremony. So they cannot be blind. Now, and from the fact that we have to even say that blind people cannot be judges, we can infer that lay people are okay. What's the connection? If you need members of the Sanhedrin, right, full professional certified judges, then you wouldn't need to say blind people aren't allowed, because blind people cannot be judges. מדתנא רב יוסף נפקא, דתנא רב יוסף, כשם שבית דין מנוקים בסדק, כך בית דין מנוקים מכל מום. Rav Yosef, who, by the way, himself was blind, interestingly, taught just like beit din have to be clean in terms of their righteousness, they have to be perfectly ethical, so too they have to be clean of blemish. And so, so both ethical and physical blemish, and therefore they cannot be, a blind person cannot be a professional judge. We did have a speaker recently who is a federal judge, a Jewish guy, who is blind, and he told us all about how he does his job, although it takes extraordinary effort, even though he's an extraordinary judge. But in the Sanhedrin, he would not be qualified. So since in any case a professional judge cannot be a blind person, so there would be no need to tell me, oh, the judge for this chalitza cannot be blind. The fact that it says that at all means that any lay person can be a judge, except that, in other words, it doesn't have to be 100% without blemish of righteousness and or other types of blemish. But in terms of sight, here it goes out of its way to say they have to be able to see the spitting ceremony. So that means that a lay person, as long as he has sight, can do it. Now, how do we know that a judge has to be without blemish? Pasuk in Shir Hashirim, that we allegorize that entire section describing the Sanhedrin and the judges. So you are beautiful and you have no blemish in you. All right, good. Now, and now according to the sages, what do they do with that le'aneh? Because they already don't need it for lay people. They already know that from Zikneh. And the answer is, to teach that the judges have to actually see the spit come out of the Yevamot's mouth. It can't be that she does it when they're not looking or too little. So they have to see it physically. Okay, so that's how you know that. Now, so that according to the Yehuda, doesn't he also require that they actually see it? It's not enough that they be sighted, people not blind, but they actually have to see that part of the ceremony for it to be valid. So doesn't he agree? And we say, you're right, even Yehuda agrees with that. So he cannot use the word le'aneh to teach me that lay people are okay. So how does he know, back to the drawing board for the Yehuda, how does he know that lay people can be judges? Yisrael called who, since the pasuk says here, Nikra Shemo B'Yisrael Bet Chalusanal, his name will be called in Israel. So in Israel means that's where it's being called. Though they are the witnesses here at the ceremony. So since it says Israel, it means anyone. Okay, now the sages, what do they do with that word Yisrael? He uses that to teach that the court has to be courts of people that were born Jewish and not converts. So that's Be-Yisrael, meaning born Jewish. Okay, Ve'idach, now Rabbi Yehuda, where's he going to learn that from? Be-Yisrael Acharina Ketiv. It says elsewhere, beforehand, Shara Zekanim Shem Be-Yisrael. So it says Israel twice, so he can learn that as well. Ve'idach, okay, and now the sages, What do they do with that? Second Yisrael, Mebalech Detanya, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Pam Achat Hayinu Yoshbin Lefnei Rabbi Tarfon, Uba Yevamot Achlos, Amar Lanu, Anu Kulechem Halus HaNa'al. Is to teach that not only the judges, but also any bystanders have to say, oh, this is Bet Chalutz HaNa'al. We know that from a story where one time the students were sitting around in front of Rabbi Tarfon, and the Yevamot came and said, I need chalitza, and he did a chalitza, and Rabbi Tarfon told the students, told everybody there, everybody, you have to respond, Chalutz HaNa'al. This is a person who removed his shoe. So it's to teach us that everyone responds. Okay, V'idach, and Rabbi Yehuda, how does he know that? Me v'nikra nafka. He learns it from the pasuk here, v'nikra shema, it shall be called. Shall be called in passive means anyone who happens to be around. So he knows that as well. All right, good. So now we accounted for both Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda, how they know that we can use laymen as judges for chalitza ceremony. Just last question. We have also these verbs, they shall call, they shall speak, and so if we, according to this methodology, that any plural means two, so we have to add another two and yet another two. So Rabbi Yehuda, who already said from the Zikenim and Zikenim that was 4, so there's going to be yet another 4, that's 8, and a tiebreaker 9. For Rabbanan, who said 3, there's going to be another 2 plus another 2, and a tiebreaker, that'll make 7. Right, so what are they going to do with those plural verbs? And the answer is they're not going to use them for counting judges. That when the Bet Din wants to summon the Yavam to the court, they have to go themselves and call upon him and not send a messenger. So v'kad ulo, the judges. And they shall speak to him. What does that teach? It means that the judges should give him proper advice according to the scenario and who he is and who she is. If he was a young person, the Yavam, and the Yavama was older, hu zaken v'hi alda, or the other way around, if then there's a large age discrepancy between them, which could easily happen, older brother and younger brother, and one of their wives could be even younger or even older. So if he is older, he said, the judges say, what are you doing? You're going to marry this young girl? It doesn't necessarily mean she's a minor. She could be whatever, 13, 15. But the point is, he's older. What are you going to do? This is not appropriate for you. Or if he's young, well, it's not appropriate for you. You're going to marry this older woman. So it's best to go pick on someone your own size, so to speak. Go and marry someone like yourself, close to your own age, and then that'll have shalom bayit, and you'll get along. Otherwise, you're going to have this one's old, this one's young. The old one's going to want to watch the opera. The young one's going to want to go to a football game. They're not going to get along. And therefore, they don't want to make the judges should give them proper advice that will lead to a happy and healthy marriage. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman, halacha chalisa bishlosha. In the end, we say halacha is that in fact all you need is 3. After all, our Mishnah that we just read is anonymous, and the anonymous is 3, so we should follow the Yehuda Nasi. He knew the other opinions. He knew the opinion of the Yehuda. That's the Yehuda in generation before him. He knew that he said 5, but the Yehuda Nasi mentioned only one anonymous opinion, 3. So that means that's the halacha. Amar Rav Nachman. But Rava then asked Rav Nachman, you see, at first Rava quoted Rav Nachman, so that means Rav Nachman originally told Rava that this is the halacha, and so Rava, when he heard that, asked Rav Nachman about it. He says, if so, then regarding me'un, if a minor girl wants to object to her marriage, refuse the marriage, she has to do that in front of a bet din. And then also, halacha should be that you need 3. Because we have a Mishnah earlier in Masechet Yevamot on 25b, that says that me'un and chalitza both with three people. And if you say, yeah, that is indeed the case, good, we have a Mishnah there that's also an anonymous Mishnah, so it makes perfect sense that we should follow that as the halacha. If you say so, but we have a Braita that says the opposite. והתניא, מעון בית שמאי אומרים בית דין מומחין ובית הלל אומרים בבית דין ושלא בבית דין. This is regarding the quality of the judges. When you're doing this refusal ceremony, Beit Shammai says it has to be professional judges. Beit Hillel says it can be in Beit Din or not in Beit Din, meaning professional or unprofessional judges. Okay, that's not related. Elu ve'elu modim sheserich shelosha, but they both agree that you need three judges. That's the houses say three. But Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yosef, these two sages, machshirin b'shnayim, they say in only three, even only two people is enough for the refusal ceremony. Ve'amar Rav Yosef bar min Yomi amar Rav Nachman halacha keoto hazug, and Rav Nachman says that is the halacha like that pair. The second pair, that all you need is two. So here we see the halacha is decided not like the anonymous opinion. So what's the deal? How come there we don't follow it and here we do? And the answer is hatam had setama. Regarding mi'un, there's only one anonymous mishnah. Whereas we, regarding chalitza, have not only this mishnah that we just read, but also there's another mishnah in the beginning of Masechet Sanhedrin that lists all the things that you need three judges for, and one of them is chalitza. So here we have two. Okay, now we ask, hold on, hatam ninhu, even regarding me'un, there is a second mishnah, ditnan me'ana or shechalsa befanav yisa'enna mipnei shehu bebet din. This is talking about a judge himself who does mi'un, the judge who heard the case of refusal or the chalitza, if after, now she's free of that husband, if the judge himself wants to marry her, that's permitted because he's a member of the court. So he's trustworthy that he didn't have any ulterior motives and, permitted something that wasn't permitted just because he wanted to marry her. He's not going to violate the law for his own personal gain. So anyway, the point is that you see that it is in Beit Din. So that means mi'un has to be in Beit Din with three and not two. So there are two Mishnayot that are anonymous that say mi'un has to be with three people. Just like regarding chalitza, also there are two Mishnayot that says it has to be with three people. So what's the difference between the one and the other, where one we follow the halacha, one we don't follow as the halacha l'maaseh? Over there it's only two regarding mi'un, but regarding chalitza, there's actually three, because you can include this one also. Shechalza befanav includes chalitza as well as mi'un. So that's why for chalitza with three mishnayot that are anonymous, then we're going to follow now. But if it's only two anonymous mishnayot, then we'll argue on it and say the halacha is not like that. Okay, now if you think, well, what's the difference? Mikdi ha-setama v'ha-setama. What's the difference? This is anonymous and that's anonymous. Why does it matter how many times Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said it anonymously, as if it's only two times, he didn't really mean it? Mali chad seta, mali tere seta, mali telata. Even if he just says it once, it should be the same as saying it twice or three times. So rather, ela amar Nachman v'Yitzchak elu stam b'mkom machloket. The difference is when you have an anonymous opinion together with a machloket. So as follows: Titnan semichat zikenim ve'egla arufa b'shlosha divrei Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yehuda omer b'chamisha v'chalitza v'me'un b'shlosha v'la kapalig Rabbi Yehuda shema'mina hadar be'Rabbi Yehuda shema'mina. In that Mishnah in Sanhedrin that we mentioned as a proof that chalitza is three, you see that it mentions a machloket. It says regarding the judges putting their hands on an animal. Let's say they make a mistaken ruling and they have to bring a korban hatat. So how many judges need to do the semicha? At least three. If there's an egla arufa, someone was murdered, we don't know who it is, to measure where the site is and what city is closest to in order to perform the decapitated heifer ceremony, you need 3 judges. That's according to the Biyoseh. The Biyudah, however, that's the 4th generation of Biyudah, he says 5. So we see regarding these 2 items, the Mishnah records a machloket. But then it continues, chalitza v'hame'onin bishlosha v'lo kapalig Biyudah. The Mishnah says regarding Chalitza and Me'on, 3, and Biyudah does not say any disagreement in that Mishnah in Sanhedrin. So we can derive from here that Biyudah must have changed his mind. From the fact that Biyudah is mentioned in the first half of the Mishnah and is not mentioned in the second half of the Mishnah, well, if Biyudah still said 5 regarding Chalitza, then the Mishnah would have mentioned him. So this is what it means that it says, this Mishnah says anonymously. It's not about the number. It says it 2 times here, three Mishnayot like that. That doesn't matter. This Mishnah is the clear proof, because if the Biyudah continued to disagree and say you need 5 for Chalitza, it would have mentioned it in this Mishnah. Therefore, we can conclude that a Biyudah changed his mind. Now you'll ask, oh, this also says Chalitza in this Mishnah, and also says 3, and there's no disagreement. Yeah, that's true, but the Biyudah never disagreed regarding Chalitza. Above, and that was other sages that said Bet Hillel, Bet Shammai says you need 3, and the other sages you need 2. So therefore, since those sages who said you need 2 are not mentioned in the first half, so the fact that they're not mentioned in the second half is not significant. They're just not mentioned in this Mishnah at all, and so therefore there's no proof from this Mishnah that the halacha is 3 for mi'un. So for mi'un the halacha is going to be 2, but for chalitza this is a proof that you need 3 judges and not 5 in order to perform a chalitza. Good. The elders, the judges have to establish a location where the ceremony is going to take place. They have to announce it. They can't do it ad hoc in secret. Rather announce it from beforehand so that other people, if they want to come and witness it, they can come and participate. Because it says they go to the Shara. Who cares where the place is? It means the place doesn't have to be at the gate, but it has to be designated. In fact, these sages did a chalitza ceremony with 5. Now we wonder, Keman, Biyudah, who were they following? Biyudah's opinion? We just established that Biyudah changed his mind, and we followed 3. And the answer is, you're right. Really, technically, they only need 3 in order for the ceremony to be valid. But they wanted to publicize the matter so that everyone would know that the chalitza was done. That way she can go and date and get married, and no one would have any problem. So better to have 5 so that everyone will hear about it. Rav Asher, Ikla lebe Rav Kahana. Rav Asher once happened to come visit the Rav Kahana's house. Amaleh, Salik mod legaban maleh bechamisha. So Rav Kahana said, Rav Kahana said, oh, it's a good thing you're here. Now you can complete you could be number 5 for our quorum for our bet din to do chalitza. Amar Rav Kahana, hava kaimna kamed Rav Yehuda v'amar li. Rav Kahana himself, he's the one that just said that. He says when he was once with Rav Yehuda, his teacher said, Ta sak lezirza dekane listarufe b'chamisha. Says, come with us, let's go to the bundle of reeds. That's where they were going to meet. They designated that place to meet so that you can join us and be number 5 to do a chalitza ceremony. And in those cases, the other people said, and in that case, the other people said, why do we need 5? It's only to publicize the matter, even though technically 3 would be sufficient. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, hava kamed Rav Yehuda, amar le, sakta lezirza dekaned l'starufe bechamisha. Similarly, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda was once standing in front of Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda said, come, and let's go to that bundle of reed spot so that you can join us and be number 5 to do chalitza ceremony. And he he didn't have to ask and answer. He said so that we can publicize the matter, even though it would be sufficient with 3. Amar le tanena be Israel, bebet in Israel. But Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, he himself was a convert. So he said, wait a second, but we have a baraita that says it has to be in Israel, only those that were born Jewish, v'lo bebetin shel gerim, and so converts are not allowed to be judges. V'ana geran, I'm a convert, so I cannot join, which is interesting, because even though technically you only need 3, that's true, but once you add more, so all the judges that you add have to be valid judges and not a convert. Amar Rav Yehuda, kigon Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, mapekna mamona apumeh. Now, even though he is Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda is not invalid to be a witness, a judge in a case like this, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with him. In fact, Rav Yehuda testifies that Rav Yehuda states that he, regarding someone like Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, he would, based on his testimony, remove money from someone else. In other words, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda says, this guy owes money to that guy, I would rely on his testimony by itself. Now we wonder, is that true literally? Really? Would you take money unilaterally from one witness? The pasuk says you need 2 witnesses. What he meant by that is that if someone came with a document that says, here, look, you owe me $100, and Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda came and said, wait, he already paid him. That's a false document. So I would falsify the document. I would cast doubt on the document based on Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda's words. So he was a very, very ethical, honest, trustworthy person. Nevertheless, because of this technical detail that it says B'Yisrael, he cannot be a judge for a chalitza case. One more statement. Amar Rava. גר דן של את חברו דבר תורה, שנאמר שום תשים עליך מלך, אשר יבחר השם אלוקיך בו, מקרב אחיך תשים עליך מלך, עליך הוא דבעינן מקרב אחיך, אבל גר דן את חברו גר. Even though a convert cannot be a judge over other Jews, but a convert can be a judge to decide cases of other converts. And we see this in the Torah. This is a pasuk regarding a king. Well, a king also would give judgments. So there's overlap between the role of a king and the role of a judge. And here it says that when you appoint a king over you, whoever Hashem chooses, from amongst your brethren, right? So that's how you know that it has to be someone Jewish. To put upon yourselves. So upon yourselves also, whereas understanding born Jewish. So when you have someone with authority over yourselves, over those who are born Jewish, then that person has to be also mikerav achecha, also born Jewish. So someone born Jewish has to judge someone else that's born Jewish. But a convert can judge a fellow convert. Good. Now, ve'im hayta imo miYisrael, dan afilu Yisrael. Even if just the mother was Jewish and the father wasn't, still that's sufficient, and that person can be a judge over another Jew, someone born Jewish. That's true in general, but for chalitza, we are even more stringent, and we require that the judge have both a father and both a mother, a Jewish father and mother. Shemar v'nikra shemo beYisrael. That pasuk that says he will be called in Israel bet halutz hana'al. So this pasuk beYisrael comes to include that both the mother and the father have to be Jewish. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen v'amen.